welcome to Wellness Week Live. I am your guest. Well, not really a guest. I'm the host, DJ Anthony. It says it right there. I'm a real DJ. And I have a special guest here today, my friend, Bella. She's right there. Bella, how are you? Thanks for making time for us today.
Good. I'm great. I'm so excited to be here.
Listen, so as I was saying off camera, I wanted to have you on because, you have an interesting business and you have an interesting a project that you're working on as it pertains to really financial freedom for people, and particularly you're working with a lot of women, which I thought is amazing. And I think in this day and age, it's important for us to talk to not only our kids, but I think young women, to empower them. So I saw what you were doing and I said, I have to have her on the show to talk about your latest venture and all the great things that you have going on as it pertains to finances and money and how we handle that and whatnot. So, and I just want to preface, to the viewers, we're not giving any legal advice. We're not giving any financial advice. It's just a conversation between two friends. So, but, take notes, people. So, Bella, tell me a little bit about what is the program that you're doing as it pertains to, money management.
Sure. So I really don't have one program running right now. Maybe in the future I will, but the thing about what I do a lot of one-on-one coaching with women, which offers a really custom approach. So it's not, somebody who may be wanting to make $1 million is very different, not so different, but somewhat different to somebody who may just want to make $1,000 in the next 30 days. Also, you can just imagine somebody in their 20s versus somebody in their 60s. They have very different mindset around money regarding, what generation they really came from, right? So I know, like my mom came from an entirely different belief system around money. And then, someone like myself has a completely different mindset around someone like my son, right? Who's going to be very different as well. So it's a custom approach, which I love because it's, it's not like you can just pick up a book or you can just jump in a program or follow a course or follow a workbook. It's very custom to like, right. Say I was working with you, like how much money do you want to make in a month? Like how much money do you want to make in a year? Right. What is stopping Anthony, right? Or what allows you to make more money? Like, what's stopping Anthony is very different as to like what's stopping Tim, for an example, right? So it's a very custom approach. And I guess the first step we really take is, what is their goal, right? I talk to so many people and they have to really stop and think, shoot, I don't even know. I want more money, but like more money, maybe $5 or more money, maybe $5 million, but they don't even, that's not even registered in their head. So you can't, the vagueness is going to stop you because you do a completely different things from wanting $500 to wanting $5 million, right? So it's a very custom approach, but we start with the goal. And then I work on, essentially neurology and psychology a lot. I'm not a psychologist and I'm not a neurologist, but there's a way that we behave around money, the way we think around money and what motivates us around money, right? So I take a step in that direction and I take a look at, what are your beliefs around money? What do you think about money? What were you raised about around money? And like I asked you before, like what's stopping you and what has stopped you? And then I use like a 3-step approach, which the first one is neurology and psychology, which I talked about. The second one is really like just logical and planning. So like action steps, like, Anthony, what do you need to do to make, that extra $1,000 a week? Maybe it's, maybe it's do more shows or sell more products or do more interview, like whatever, action steps. Right. And then the third part that I really like is the spiritual aspect, right? So I can't tell you, okay, you need to make $1 million, right? I don't know how much you need to make. Like we really like dig deep and we really ask how much money does Anthony need in order to feel successful or complete his goals?
Right.
And then also just internally, like self-esteem, like that's a big part around attracting money. Like and I'm just using you as an example.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. Like how does Anthony feel if I give him $10,000? Does that feel really good? Or does that feel really greedy?
Right.
Or how does it feel to work extra 10 hours a week? Does that feel good to you? Or does that feel like too much or anxiety or fear? So again, like it's a very custom approach, because I don't believe there's really one size fit all. And I really care about people getting exactly what they need. And everybody needs something very different.
Right. By the way, you touched on this. And before I forget, how can people contact you? What's your social media, accounts or anything like that? Where can people get information about your service?
Yeah. Bella _Derner. That's you can just Google me. My website will come up. Love is Bella is my website. Cool. And then Bella Derner on Facebook.
Awesome. I wanted to touch on this, and you hit a hot button here. You mentioned the word generations before. Your mother's generation or parents' generation, my parents' generation, our generation. The future generation, our kids. That's so true. I know that. It's a different world. Like my mother's generation, my mother was pretty much a stay-at-home mom. My father worked for money. Boom, done. And that could be good for certain couples, to each his own. But I tend to lean now more towards, in our generation, or the future generations, women, it could be a dangerous thing too. I have women in my circle who had to stay in abusive relationships because they didn't have their own money. Money is power. They didn't have their own education, or they stayed in a relationship longer than they should have. It was harder to get out because they didn't know how to manage money, or they didn't have an education. And so I think what you're doing is great to address that. And the other thing is you're having a conversation. You probably run into this. So many people don't even want to talk about money. They act like it's a taboo, like talking about, the guy. No, don't talk about it. And I think you just opening up dialogue with the client is half of the battle to say, these are my goals. These are my fears. Right. What can we do? I think so many people don't want to talk about it because it's like taboo or something. And I don't know if you run into this, but I have people in my circle, I'm going to leave it very loose like that, but that see money as bad. It's like you're a bad person if you're monetarily successful. That I have people that look down on me for being successful. Like, and I'm not saying I'm some billionaire, but it's like, wow, there are people out there that are kind of like haters that just, they see it as an evil thing because you have financial freedom and you're good with your money. And I think that's important that people talk to you about that to kind of dispel some of this. So you mentioned also in one of your posts about manifestation, manifesting. So let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, do you get into that? Like how can people see their life as being better through their financial goals and freedom? Like how do you address that? Like, is it what questions would you ask or guide somebody towards if they're having like, I'm a big fan of that, manifesting. To see, if you see it, you can become it. I mean, talk a little bit about that. You're manifesting and structure.
Yeah, sure. So, I think manifesting gets such a bad has a bad rep. And it's also along the lines of money as well. Like you were saying, like both these things, they are like pretty taboo today. I feel like, give it 5-10 years, it's becoming normalized. And it's the conversation behind it is changing too, right? Even for myself, like I can just say you were probably similar raised where like money, we may have heard that it was bad, or we may have heard like, people who are rich are greedy, right, or evil, or, a good one that just came up when I was doing some work was like, you can't be materialistic and nice, or you can't have like nice things,
right,
and be a nice person.
Right.
Like either you're prioritizing nice things,
right,
and not people.
You
right?
can't chew gum and walk at the same time.
What?
It's like people saying it's like you can't chew gum and walk at the same time.
Exactly. Like you can't have a Ferrari and be like generous.
Right. But I think that's people's insecurity.
Yeah.
I think that's people kind of low key hating. You know,
yeah,
they got to dump on, and being rich is relative. I mean, you know,
Right.
I mean, you could have a Honda Accord and be wealthier than most of the world. You know, most of the world is very poor. So when people say rich, I'm like, what do you mean rich? Like, it's easy to crap on Jeff Bezos, but I mean, none of us are Jeff Bezos. So, but yeah, do you find that in your life growing up and stuff? Did you have people in your life that kind of like crapped on people who were successful financially?
Oh yeah, totally. You know, like my dad, you know, God rest his soul. He was an incredible father. But it's a generational thing where he would see a Mercedes and he would be like, oh, what a jerk. Oh, they have a Mercedes. Oh, what a jerk. Oh, they have a BMW. Oh, they think they're too cool because they have a BMW. Right. Or he'd be, you know, working on a home that was like huge, and he would have nothing nice to say about them because, you know, he was probably raised that way too.
Right. And I had that in my family too. You know, a lot of insecurity, I think it comes down to, you know,
right.
That we want. And I was like that too growing up. You know, I would see the person in the Mercedes and be like, huh. Meanwhile, I don't even know that person. Like they're probably a sweetheart, but you know, but it takes, I think, you have to grow up and go through life. Right. And then you see, whoa, there's some really mean poor people, and there's some really nice rich people. And there's some really mean rich people and some really sweetheart poor people. It's who knows, right? But you know, I think what about when you work with women and money? I mean, what are some of the, I guess, struggles or things that you're seeing when you work with your female clients versus maybe like a male client? Like, what are so what are some of the hurdles that the female clients that you have, the women, like what are their financial hopes for?
Yeah, good question. I just want to plug in my thing here.
No problem.
Good question. I would say that self-esteem and confidence. And I love how you have a distinguish here between men and women, because if you notice, like, just for an example, sorry, right? Men statistically do not say sorry as often as women.
I know. I'm a man.
No offense to you.
You're 100% right. 100% right.
Yeah. It's just how we are, just how we were raised, and just how the gender, how the culture really is, right? But the point of this is like, when we say sorry, we're basically saying that we are doing something wrong, right? We're at fault, right? So you'll see, and obviously, you know, if you do something wrong, like hurt someone's feelings or are malicious or mean, like, yeah, sure, that generates an apology. But we're talking about women who are saying sorry all the time, things that they're not even doing, you know, like they maybe left out. Maybe I had a girlfriend yesterday. She was just apologizing because somebody's feelings were upset, or they were actually being rude to her. And she was saying sorry because she's so used to saying sorry like all the time. It just comes out, you know?
Right.
Or if they're like going slow in the grocery store, oh, sorry, you know?
Right. Nobody did anything wrong. Right. But
yeah. You know, even, and I just look at my husband, like I just noticed he never says sorry because he just has more confidence in himself. He knows that he's not doing anything wrong, and he is right in a way.
Right.
So women, because of the lack of confidence, which also allows you to have less certainty in your capabilities and what your talents are, what your skill set is, and also your level of earning, then they have less certainty that they can achieve the level of success that they want to achieve, right?
Right. Going back to money is power.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we really work on that self-esteem, and like, why don't they think they're worth, you know, the extra $10,000, $20,000 to make a year? Or why do they think they can't open the business? Or who told them that? Or where is the self-esteem? Where's the lack of self-esteem coming from?
Do you think that money can make some people or women maybe even more insecure or more apologetic? Like, I'm sorry, I'm wealthy. I'm sorry, I feel bad. Like maybe they feel, because I know when I was growing up, I grew up lower middle class, kind of poor. And I almost feel guilty a lot of times for doing well for myself. And like I said, I'm not Jeff Bezos, but I have this guilt trip, like kind of you going back to your dad, you know, like I grew up with that. So I always thought like, money's bad. So do you find that women feel guilty for making money sometimes? I don't know.
I haven't. I would say not so much. I feel like I think it's one thing, it's hard to, okay, so as human beings, this is where the psychology comes in. As human beings, we don't want to feel that guilt or that shame, right?
Right.
We want to feel like safe and secure and happy and comfortable. So it is pretty challenging for somebody to earn something that they feel guilty about earning, right? And that's why they don't earn the money, is because they have that guilt and shame. So why would I want to make the extra 100K? I'm going to feel crappy. So they generally don't earn the money if they have that guilt and shame.
Right.
I find, but I have also seen, like, I just remember, like, my mom, for an example, having like a nice car and not wanting to be like too flashy. So like, taking like different exits in parking lots and entering at different parking lots, or not having like certain people see her in the car. And that is like,
and that's kind of sad. That's sad,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Here's somebody earned it, work for it, and I know people who do the same thing. They purposely drive crappy cars. They hide everything, and it's like, that's so sad. Like,
Yeah.
you're living in that world, like, because I guess there's still that element out there that shame on you for doing well, and you hear this in the media a lot. The 1%, and they're bad, and it's like, oh, so yeah, it's almost self-defeating where I'm sure you address a lot of that. But what about, you talked about in one of your posts about understanding what you are worth, which I have struggled with that with my business. I'm afraid to ask for, oh, that company charges that. I really shouldn't charge that. Meanwhile, I probably should charge double that. I'm an idiot. But so, right. And this ties into what you were saying about women maybe not asking for or wanting to make more. So understanding your worth. I mean, what would you tell someone that's struggling with that? Like, they have a business or they want to get the promotion. I mean, how do you go about that, or how do you empower them to? I think men are better at that.
Yeah.
Better at asking for, I want that raise of 50,000. Here's why. Do you find that women have a hard time, or people have a hard time sometimes asking for it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think part of it really is like some of it is a blind spot, right? So like, I had a client working with me, and she had a side hustle, and she was offering value to her customers, but she was new and she wasn't ready. She didn't know how much to charge or when to charge. And I just asked her a simple question, right? Are you providing value? And she said, yes. And I said, then you can charge.
Right.
You can charge. And she was like blown away. She was like, oh my God, really? Like, I had no idea. Like, she needed permission to charge. She needed somebody to say, she needed approval, right? And you don't need anyone's approval. This is like for you and for everybody. Like, you don't need anyone's approval. And like, the answer really is like, how do you know you're worth charging whatever amount you're charging? Or how do you know you're worth that raise? And the answer is so simple. It's because you were born.
Right. And by the way, I think people, tell me if I'm wrong here. Do you think people are afraid they're going to be rejected? Because if they ask for it, the person may say, no, I'm not going to do that. Because I know that I used to be afraid of that, to ask for what I think I'm worth. But I'm like, oh, if I ask that, they may not hire me. So I would purposely sabotage myself and go lower when I really shouldn't have done that. That's not fair to me. But do you find that people do that? Maybe like they're afraid to be rejected, kind of, not given the raise or not hired?
Yeah, I mean, definitely fear. I think fear stems from everything essentially that's stopping us. It's a fear of rejection, or fear of missing out, or fear of ruining something. It's always, I think, two basic emotions are either stemming from fear or love.
Yeah.
And really, like, if you're experiencing that fear, then you need to find the certainty. You need to say, like, let's say, for an example, I had a job, right? And I wanted to make a certain amount of money. And I was nervous about this amount. And it was a lot of money. And I didn't think I was going to get it. And then, like, right, who am I to get this amount of money? How dare I ask for this much money? And so I needed to give myself this certainty, evidence, right? So what I did was I did some research around the role and how much people were getting paid for this role. Once I found that evidence, then I was able to say, if, you know, Tina, Mary, and Sue and Lily are getting paid this amount of money and in the same position, then why can't I? I'm doing X, Y, and Z.
Right.
I can get paid that much money. And then I did it, and I got the money. So
Yeah.
whatever you need to do to develop that certainty, whether it's some research and development, or maybe it's just talking to a friend about, like, hey, I need some support around getting this much in a raise, or I need and make sure you're really mindful and, like, who you're talking to. Because I know certain people, they're not going to jump on board. They're not going to enroll me in that. And they can jump on the fear wagon too. So I have to make sure that I'm talking, like, I'm sure if I called Anthony and told him, hey, I want to charge, this client X amount of dollars, I can bet Anthony would say, yeah, you certainly can. Go for it, right?
Right.
So make sure you're picking those people who have the possibility can actually happen for you.
Right. Yeah. You touched on having those people around you. And I think when we have people that empower us, we tell our kids, you can do it. I will say one thing about my family growing up, they always told me, you can do it. You can do this. So many times, as a parent, it's like that's what we should be instilling in our kids. But I think oftentimes our parents don't. We talked about my parents and your father, right, kind of looking down on people passive aggressively, maybe not giving us permission, and that can hurt, because no, our kids can do it. You can do it. I can do it. But we need that team around us also to help lift us up. No man or woman's an island. You also, I wanted to touch on when people are talking to you about money, are they coming? Sometimes in my circle, again, people see money as, oh, well, it's going to be greedy or bad. Like, I'm assuming you're helping these people because to give them freedom, to give them power, to give them a better life. It's not to be some greedy monster. Like, yeah, but I think a lot of times, like it's that can be looked on like that. I know that you're talking about getting paid what we're worth. When I started to realize, I should and I deserve to get paid what I'm worth, things got a lot easier. You attract money. When people see you unsure, then that doesn't say a lot about you, whether you're selling shoes or you're a dentist or you're whatever.
Yeah.
It's the energy we put out there. It doesn't have to be cocky and rude, but just, hey, look, this is what,
certainty.
Right. No matter what it is in life, So it's, do you guys now, I'm sure you have probably a lot of this going on too. Debt, when people are coming to you, they're probably a lot. I mean, it seems like almost everybody's in debt of some sort. I mean, do you address that, or do people have that problem oftentimes?
Yeah, sure. One comment that you made, I think, is so important, and about your parents who may not be on board with what you're creating in your life for their own fears and their own insecurities, right? Versus uplifting you and encouraging you to, like, go out there and get it.
Right.
I love the analogy, and, like, as a parent, I love, like, reading about, like, parenting and building their confidence and allowing them to be independent, right? It's so beautiful. But I love this analogy, and you probably heard it several times, where you take two plants and you say, like, beautiful things to one plant, like, you're beautiful and I love you, and you sing and you're very joyous and happy. And then you take another plant and you just yell at them and scream at them and curse at them. And they've done this studies, like, over and over and over again. And, like, the plant with the negative talk literally dies.
Right.
And they're in the same sunlight, same soil and everything.
Right.
But they literally die. And
Right.
so I think it's really important, as society to not just our children or like our loved ones, but just to everyone. Like people learn from encouragement, right? People don't learn necessarily from criticism. Like if you see someone and they're doing great at, I don't know, cooking, you know,
Right.
you're doing such a great job at cooking, Anthony. You're doing amazing at cooking. You're going to feel that confidence. And not
Right.
only are you going to be a better cook, but you're just going to be a better husband. You're going to be a better dad.
Human.
You're going
Right.
to be a better host because
Right.
you just feel that love, right? But if I say, oh, you know what? The chicken was a little dry, then you're going to be like, oh gosh, like you're going to feel defeated and
Right.
you're going to you're not going to be very energetic as a husband and as a host and all these things, right? So I think it's just such a strong message that we just let people know it does matter to focus more on what they're doing good, and it will actually transpire into all areas of their life.
100%. And I think it's even, you're 100% right. And I think it's even more kind of passive aggressive and insidious in that when we talk about others or how we see the world, our kids and people around us can absorb that too, in negative or positive. Because my parents were, I'm sure like yours, good people, good parents. But yeah, it's those comments they made about, right, oh, the rich people, this or that, or, but I will say my mother got me started without even telling me. She used to have a Christmas club where she put money in the bank, like $5 a week. She didn't teach me directly, but I watched that. I was like, that's a good idea as a kid, and your son will watch you, how you guys spend or don't spend and how you manage. And I was telling you off camera about my friend last night, he has a 10-year-old daughter and he started to teach her how to purchase and buy stocks. Now she's 10, but I was like, that's wonderful, especially a young girl. Like I said to you before, I think women are still in 2022 in this modern day, still, not, don't have as much financial freedom as they should. And that's not a good thing, especially if they're in a bad position. Men, generally speaking, we still have the upper leg on, income and money and finance, generally speaking, of course. But I think that's what I think it's wonderful what you're doing, empowering women and hopefully younger women too, to see you and say, wow, I can do this. This is just not, a man's thing. It's something that is necessary. And I think it is pervasive in our relationships too. If we have a healthy financial life, we're probably going to domino effect, have a healthy personal life, have a healthy, physical, et cetera, spiritual life. But and I think it's great that you're dispelling the myth of, right, oh, money is bad and you shouldn't have it. And again, this manifestation that's so important. And in closing, I also wanted to touch on, you talked about the, I guess, logic and structure. Do you find this out? And let me ask you, do you see that people sometimes treat money as like romance? Like it just happens. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. It's like money should be like, like you just fall in love and you either get the money or you don't. They romanticize money. That's what I see sometimes. And do you see people kind of doing that where it's like we touched upon before, a little taboo to talk about it, but then how are you supposed to manage and make money if you don't want to talk about it? So talk about like the structure and the logic. Do you touch on that with them? Like hey, let's break it down. Like, do you go into that with people about, right, if you mentioned before, maybe you're gonna have to get an extra job or charge extra. Do you delve into that with people about the logic of it and the structure of it? This is ABC.
Yeah, definitely. I know for me, I was raised, there was one way to make money, and that was 9 to 5, right? Job 9 to 5, working for somebody else in corporate America. And then really because my just personality, I'm very inquisitive. I like to help other people. So I like to learn more so I can pass it on. And I just started learning more and more and more about money. Which I developed like so many different ways to make money, having your own business, having real estate, having stocks. We all know about NFTs and crypto now. But, there's licensings and, coaching and Facebook. Yep. I think off the top of my head, I could name like probably 20 ways to make money. Right. So yes, when someone comes to me and they want to make a certain amount of money, we definitely get into like brainstorming, which is so fun. That's where we get really creative and we get to like ask them like, okay, what are some talents that you have? What, are you really good at? What is, I'm all about working in my passion. So
Right.
what is fun to you? What would you do for fun and for free? Let's start there. Because also like you, I know you love what you do because you're so good at it.
I'm shameless at it. I'm shameless. I book them at funerals. I'm like, you need a DJ? Here's my card. But,
yeah, exactly. Because you love it. It's
I'm
fun.
shameless. Right. You're right. I used to be a teacher, by the way, but
Mm-hmm.
I like teaching, but I love entertainment. But yeah, to your point. And by the way, I didn't think it was possible. If you told me in
Right.
college I'm going to stop being a teacher and be a full-time entertainer DJ, I would have been like, no way. There's just no way.
Yeah.
I didn't think I deserved that. I didn't think it's possible. To your point. So that's why I wanted to have you on again, because I'm feeling motivated just talking to you about this. And what you're doing is very analogous to kind of Weight Watchers in a sense. It's not that Weight Watchers program, it's the power in talking to people about whatever it is. And you're talking to people about money. Right there is an amazing service that you're offering. And many people don't want to talk about it. And this is why I think what you're doing it's very empowering, very important. I would say it's necessary, it's essential. But
yeah, it's so funny because I had some people on my Instagram just say like, don't talk about money before I really started to go into money. And I felt sad for them because they obviously had some scarcity problems.
That's kind of old school meant, right? Like never talk about it, right?
Don't talk about it. And it's like your phone. You couldn't have a phone unless you had money. Like you can't have like a drink unless you have money. You can't, God forbid you go to the hospital. You couldn't live unless you had money. You can't go anywhere if you put gas in your car, So there's so much not talked about around money, and like this person, they're probably very, they're probably broke, right? And it's like, it's very unfortunate because if they just change their perception around money, they could have more freedom and just be more generous and have more fun and not think about the shame and the guilt around it.
Yeah, 100% right. And by the way, I'm sure you would agree with this, but no one's saying, oh, we all have to be Bill Gates. It's relative. Like you said, do you want to make an extra $10? Do you want to make an extra 20, an extra 1,000? That's what we're talking about. And that's what I think is so empowering, because a lot of naysayers would be like, oh, none of us are going to be billionaires. That's not what it's about. It's about, like you said, incremental. What would work for you in your context, in your time? If it's an extra $5 a week, hey, that's an extra gallon of gas in your tank. That's an extra cup of coffee, or that's an extra helping you with your TV bill. So I think I applaud you for what you're doing, and I hope more, particularly men too, but I hope particularly more women keep on coming to you, because I see a lot of women in my circle and what I witness, and it's sometimes heartbreaking that they are at a disadvantage for many different reasons. And so what you're doing in a program like yours, 100% would be a great addition to them. And by the way, Bella, in closing, I mean, you can put your links and stuff on the comments below later on. So if anybody wants to contact you, but one more time, where could they find information on your service?
Yeah. So, Bella_Derner is my Instagram. Bella Derner on just Google too. We keep it real simple, or on Facebook, Bella Derner.
Awesome. Yeah. No, thank you so much for making time. And like I said, this is great. And it's something that it's necessary. I think all of us, men, women, even kids, like I said, my friend's 10-year-old daughter is getting into stocks. You can't talk about money early enough.
Yeah. So important. It's everything. Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, so thank you so much, everybody. And don't forget, everyone, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the notify. I become that guy now.
Hit the subscribe. Definitely.
Subscribe, all that stuff.
Like, yeah.
So, we got a bunch of great shows coming up. And,
you're doing great things. So happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks again, Bella, for making time. And thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend, everyone. I'm going to be signing off in 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.